Definitely.
So, yeah, I mean, it's almost like the new president. Time will tell.
And
As far as with the police here, if things are going to change now that this report is out and it's exposed what many people, particularly those in the black community, have been saying for years. The only thing that I found interesting, which is why I'm working on a story on it, was the police academy part. The other things, well, I knew about that. I'm a black man. I encountered the police, and so many other people have encountered the police, not because we're criminals, but whether it be a traffic violation or you just in the wrong place at the wrong time. It just happens to be police there, and your encounter toward them. Unfortunately, I have to say I've never had a positive encounter with the police. Every time that I've had an encounter with them, it's always been a bad encounter. And I just felt that they were disrespectful, they were aggressive, and even working in the capacity of a reporter, even identifying myself as a reporter. Here's my police press pass that came from your department. I mean, I've had officers take it out of my hand and throw it. I don't care who you are. Well, why'd you have to throw my ID? Go get it if you want it. Wow, really?
Right.
Because I won't go stand on the curb because this is a protest. I'm trying to cover a protest. You're going to throw my ID? So, I mean, they're aggressive. They're cocky like that. So that type of attitude has to change, because I'm sure if I was a white man and you were in Lincoln Park with a protest, I don't think you would have did that person like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely not. And it gives a bad name to the officers who are out here trying to do the right things. And I think that's really important that that we pay attention to the officers who want to do the right things, who are afraid to tell on their counterparts who are not, abiding by rules or just abiding by common rules of decency, because literally their lives are on the line. Mm-hmm. Literally.
It is.
And so
that's where that code of silence come in at.
Absolutely, because I do want to tell that officer, jerk is clowning, but this means I may not get home to my family, or something may happen to my family. Whatever that retaliation looks like, it's dangerous, and so you're less likely. And that was one of the things that came up, not retaliation against officers per se, but retaliation against citizens. The requirement for reporting, officer misconduct required you to sign an affidavit, swear that what I just came and told you was accurate, and I have to sign my information, and that's intimidating. That makes you afraid. And so people, with their, verified or rightful distrust of corrupt police officers, because I don't want to label everyone.
Right.
Then it becomes, well, I'm just not going to say anything. Well, I'm just going to give up, Or suddenly your items are out in public, or suddenly now you have all these new encounters with the police, and it's immediately after you filed this report. Or now your daughter's being harassed, or your children, or whatever that looks like. And so one of the things that has come up is it's time to take that away, that if I come in and file a report, that I can remain anonymous. Not just me, but officers who want to report, that they can remain anonymous. But that's tricky, because chances are someone on the other end knows somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody, and now you're exposed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
yeah, I think intimidation is a big part of why you don't see more complaints filed against police officers, because of the reporting process of not being able to remain anonymous, and your name, your address, and all this information is available for the officer to see. And you're right, all of a sudden, you start getting pulled over, or, other miscellaneous things. Oh, you got a cracked windshield, we're going to have to write you a ticket. Since when do y'all drive down the street looking for cracked windshield?
Right.
So.
Right. What about that time when I called and nobody showed up and I said the guy had a gun? Like, focus on the important things.
Right.
We talked about that in the past. We've all had our different encounters with officers from, teenage years onward. And, you think about the times where you're like, okay, I'm minding my business. I'm doing the right thing.
Right.
I'm going to, handle something. In my case, I remember the house I grew up on is on an alley, and someone was beating the crap out of some woman, and I dialed 911. And I reported it because, I'm 19 and I'm, oh my God, this is happening. Literally, they slammed her against the house and my bedroom was there. So I heard it, dial 911. And what did they do? Ring my bell. Say, hey, did y'all call? It's like, oh my God. Now, at 19, I didn't know that I could have said, I need to remain anonymous, because dude knows that it was a likely caller from the house he threw the woman against.
Right.
So now it becomes, really, did you just bring the whole squad to my porch? I get it. They need the witnesses. That's not my complaint. My complaint was, is there a different way that could have been handled for my safety, so that I'm, alive to report something else.
Right.
So yeah, but it's tricky all around. But I think what you mentioned earlier, Wendell, the respect factor, that whole throwing your ID, that ego piece, you can't legislate that. The only thing you can do is to make an example, I think. Training, yes, but that's a personality flaw. That's not a training issue. The guy who threw your ID, nobody taught him to do that or not to do that in the academy. That's just a lack of decency because dude is insecure.
Yeah, abuse of power.
Yeah, that's what I call learned behavior. That's what that is. That's from being out there in the street long enough and you see other officers mistreating minority residents, and you just think that's the norm. This is how you talk to them when you come over in these areas.
It becomes commonplace.
Yeah.
Right.
That is the status quo, and then when you buck it, it's like, who are you? It's almost like, stay in your place, N-word. How dare you challenge me? I mean, that was the whole thing.
Right.
If you look at the Sandra Bland video, basically he was mad that she had the audacity to talk back to him. That she said, that she knew that she didn't have to put her cigarette out. Well, I don't have to put my cigarette out. I'm in my car. I smoke in here. Nobody, that doesn't offend my seats,
Right.
I can do this. And so when you have those, it's not just ego, it's not just that learned behavior. They come from inherent beliefs. And so then you look at, how are you recruiting these officers? Where are they coming from? You don't want to say that just because you grew up in an affluent or different neighborhood that you can't be sensitive. But if all you know of the people in the neighborhood you're patrolling are, slanted media videos, then you will come in, like you said, with that thought of, well, I have to speak to them this way. I have to show, authority. When really common decency goes a long way.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, like you said, time will tell. I wondered, though, how the new transfer of power to our new president, Donald J. Trump, it cracks me up to say that. That's probably not nice, but I literally watched the inauguration laughing. Like, really? Is this happening? I'm looking, for Ashton Kutcher like, okay, I was just playing. We're not being punked. Okay, well, it is what it is. But I wonder how, Trump, the new Trump administration will receive this DOJ report, or will they just kind of go, whatever? Or will they just kind of, who are you putting in place? Are they going to want to enforce, the rights of people? Are they, we take it to the federal level and we say, okay, we're bringing in the feds. Normally the local officials get, okay, well, let me try to clean up or at least give the appearance. But if you have an administration in place that is not as sympathetic to the needs of people in local areas, or they think, oh, well, that's just how they live, we don't need to get involved with that. I wonder how that will affect. And I guess that's something that we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, well, according to I have to say this for the first time. According to President Trump, he's going to rid, the cities of crime and everything like that. So I guess they will take this to heart and do what they have to do to retrain the officers to do a better job. That's what President Trump said.
That's twice, and you didn't even
I didn't flinch.
flip out.
Right.
I think that My daddy says this, and Wendell, you know my dad well. You can make your mouth say anything. So we'll see.
That's true.
You can make your mouth say anything. Well, we've been talking with Wendell Hutson, who's a senior contributor writing for the Austin Weekly News on Chicago's West Side, and he is currently working on the story about the Department of Justice report in the Chicago Police Department. Wendell, we thank you so much for being a part of a Vibrant Mix today, and we hope you'll join us again real soon.
Anytime.
All right, thanks. And we are back here on a Vibrant Mix with Tasha Tamiko and Fred here at TLC Talk Radio. That is really exhilarating to say.
I know.
That's really,
I'm
really,
proud of you.
I'm excited. Thank you.
Yes.
I'm really excited.
It's nice to come and do a show and ain't got to wear no pants. You just come and come as you are.
He got on pants. That's just really
I'm just saying.
just how you feel.
I mean, in the other studios we were in, we were going into, public places, so you got to, put on clothes. And
If you show up on my porch with no pants on, I'm just going to go back and sit down.
I got on underwear.
I'm sitting back on my couch, and I'm acting like you're not out there.
All right.
And I can disconnect the doorbell, so you won't bother me.
Okay. What if I got on capris?
I mean, that's fine.
Okay.
I'm going to talk about you, though.
All right.
And so are the neighbors, actually.
Yeah. And so is me. There's a friend of mine that had on capris
That's none of my business.
years ago, and it was, he still got roasted to this day.
Well, so we're back. And our question of the week this week, take it away, Fred.
The question of the week is, what percentage of men would you say, and this is just off opinion, not necessarily what you've been through, but what you've heard from other women, things you've read, and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. What percentage of men would you say are selfish lovers?
Yeah, I'm glad you gave that disclaimer because my mind was like, I don't know. How would I know? I ain't
Right.
slept
I
with
mean,
all
you
the
ain't
men.
trying to
Like,
you ain't trying to disclose what you've been through. But like I said, you got girlfriends, you got friends, you've been in circles and parties and discussions and women talk and at the nail shop and at the beauty salon and all that kind of stuff. Women talk.
I don't know. And I wonder how many women are talking and lying.
Well, that's a whole nother show.
Ha. I don't know. That's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot to kind of assume, I think.
Yeah, I mean, but I guess that's what it is. It's an assumation.
You couldn't just say assumption.
No,
You just had to make up a word.
assumation.
You just being an ass.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Like, if I had to give a percentage, because I'm all about being fair to men
Yeah.
and fair all around, but particularly to men because sometimes they get a bad rap. We do too. So
Yeah.
back to what I said, being fair all around, maybe 15%, and that's just the number I pulled out of my ear.
Right.
So the answer is I don't know.
I don't know, right? I would say that percentage is closer to 30 to 40%.
Really?
From what I've heard from women, from the different discussion of Facebook posts over the years, and just having a lot of female cousins
Okay.
and stuff like that, having female friends, I mean, it's talk about some guys. They talk about, even my sister is a famous line. She, we're open with each other. She'll talk about me about anything. Let's see if I can make this clean. Years ago, she said she was with a guy and he was on top of her and he's doing his thing and all she could do was count the cobwebs in his ceiling.
Wow.
Because there was nothing he was doing to satisfy her. And she tried to tell him, and, nothing worked. So, there you go. Was that clean?
That was clean. It's
Okay.
unfortunate. I'm feeling real bad for her. I'm going to have a glass of wine for her.
Yeah. And when she first told me, I'm like, you was counting cobwebs. I mean, how can you count all? All you bored. Okay.
It's
I
like
get
watching
it.
paint dry.
Right.
As me and my girls would say before we were all married, like that's a waste of a sin.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Well, like I always